In this lesson, we're going to learn about editing videos on After Effects and see how we can put transitions on them, maybe add some color grading, and just cut and do basic things that we would do with different clips to make a sequence. So I'm going to create a composition, and before I do that, I just want to show you guys what panels we're going to need so you can prepare your workspace before you follow along this lesson. So we're going to need our project panel, the composition panel, because we need to see what we're doing, and finally the effects and presets. And by default, you would have the timeline, but if you're not seeing any of these, again, go to Window, make sure Effects and Presets, Tools, Composition, Effects Controls, and let's come down, and Timeline is on. So this is the project panel. This is the effects controls, which we would use in the next part of this lesson. It has something to do with the effects and preset panel. Right, so we're going to create a new composition. Just hit that, name it whatever you want. And before I hit OK, these parts are actually important when it comes to editing videos. So down here we have some presets. If you open this up, you see that we are currently set on HDTV 1080 29.97 FPS, which would just be 30 FPS or frames per second. And basically the 1080 is referring to the resolution of your project. So if you look below it, we have 1920 pixels by 1080 pixels, the width and the height, which you could obviously change if you're looking for maybe a 720 resolution. You could change it by just clicking on it, and you can unlock this if you don't want the aspect ratio to be locked. So right now 1080p is basically the resolution that includes this width and this height. And if I open this again, you see we have some options. So we have 1080p 24 FPS and 25 FPS, then 30 FPS. So we talked about FPS, which is the amount of frames, the amount of still images before it forms a full second. So 1 second with this preset would be composed of 30 still images. And the higher your FPS is, so if you have like a 60 FPS, the higher the quality of your video. And obviously the more rendering and the more export time. So usually with high quality videos, you're going to have a high FPS. But for this lesson, we're just going to stick with the default. And just know that if it's lower, you're going to have a low quality video. I'm just going to stick with this. And again, you can change the width and the height. You can also change the duration of your composition. Currently, the clips that I'm about to use in this lesson are all under 30 seconds, and I'm going to be cutting them. So 30 seconds of project duration is okay for me. If you're planning on making a 10-minute video or maybe 1 minute long, you would just change it over here. And the background color, I'm just going to leave it to black. I'm going to hit OK. And you can see on my time indicator, it's 30 seconds long. And again, we can expand it. I'm just going to show you guys the frame thing that I told you. So if I come all the way down here, you can see it says 15 frames, and then it turns into 1 minute because here would be 15. Here's 0, 15, 30. 30 frames will be 1 second. Sorry, not a minute. And I'm going to expand this. Now that I have my timeline and I have created my composition, video editing, I'm going to import my videos. So I'm going to go in the project panel and then double click in this empty space to bring in my videos. I got these from Pexels. You can get your own or just go on any stock platform to download these footage. I took all 4. They're all in MP4. Just going to import them. And now you can see that these 4 are here. If I expand this, you You can see this guy is a composition, the rest are imported footage. Now before I start, it's definitely helpful to name your footage so you're not dealing with random names and you don't have to click on each one to see which one was, let's say, the coffee video. So I can see that this is the coffee video, so I'm going to right click, go on rename, and name it coffee or anything that's related to the video. Do the same thing for all of the other guys so that it's not confusing for me when I'm trying to edit my video. Skateboard, and then finally we have city. So I'm going to drag into my timeline all of these guys. So I'm going to click on one, hold down Control, and then select all four, drag them down here. So you can see where the videos end, and you can see this guy is about 11 seconds. And the longest one that we have is the city layer. Alright, so each of these videos are their own layers. If you've worked with other video editing softwares, you know that you can place two clips in one line and then maybe bind them together with a transition. But the thing about After Effects is that we can't do that. Everything is a singular layer and we cannot place two layers on top of each other like this. And that is because in After Effects, whatever you do, you're doing it from scratch. So if you want to transition, you would have to make it yourself and then place it on top as another layer. Place it on top, and that way you would need different layers so that it would be less confusing. Obviously, you can download pre-made transitions from online, but usually you would be making your own transitions, which is why you have separate layers so that you can work with each of the options and make the transition happen. We will get into creating transitions in the next lesson. For now, we're just going to learn how we can do a simple video editing with After Effects. So you can see I was able to drag each layer. If I drag it here, you can see that first it's my city video, and then if I go forward, it is my camping video. And one more thing before you start, it's definitely helpful to put your resolution down to quarter. The reason why we do this is because when you're playing it back, you don't want it to lag. We're going to go back from the start, but this does not affect the original quality of your clip. This is just the quality of the preview that After Effects is going to create for you. And during this lesson, there might be some frame freezes because After Effects is rendering, so don't worry about that. Alright, so let's start from the beginning. I'm going to think of my sequence. What do I want first? What do I want it to come next? And I'm going to start with my coffee video. Then I will move to camping because they're both related. Just hot drinks. So you can see it gets pixelated because it's set to a quarter. And we got the camping, and then next to that I want the city. And then finally the skateboard. So you see I kind of move them around and set them on top of each other. And you can see the time indication. If I expand this, I would have a clear view of where I'm setting each video. So I'm going to drag the camping one to 4 seconds. You can see the time indicator, this blue guy, is set on 4 seconds. So I know that I have to drag this guy a bit to the right. Coming down to the next one, I'm going to expand this even more so I get each of these seconds. There we are. So I know that this city video is 9 seconds in. 9 seconds in. Yes, I just undid what I did up here. These two are the same. The skateboard video, I've set it to around 12.5 seconds. I'm just going to bring it back to 12 seconds. All right, so now I know the time indication for each of the videos. And I could just move them around, make sure everything is working nicely. After I'm done, I'm going to expand, kind of zoom out of my timeline again. So we're back to the 30 seconds. And now you can see that even though my coffee video is no longer visible after 4 seconds because the camping video comes on top, we still have this long thing next to it. And that is actually going to be a little confusing. So you see it's the coffee video, but then 4 seconds, it turns to this. But I still have the remaining of my coffee video. So there are different ways to cut or trim your clips. One easy way is to, if you want the rest of the clip, so if I want to trim it here and I still want the end of my coffee video, I will come to the part where I want to trim it, and then I'll make sure I'm on the coffee layer, hit Control-Shift-D, or if you're on Mac, Command-Shift-D to cut it, but also duplicate the layer. So you see the first clip ends here. The rest of my coffee clip is here. That's if you want the rest. I do not want the rest. I'm just going to delete the second coffee video. So you can see that I have to move it a bit here. After the coffee video ends, I do not have any remainings over here. Another way that you can trim clips is to, again, go on the time where you want it trimmed. Then just drag the end to where you want it to be trimmed. So you see here, it has been trimmed. But there are times where you cannot see the end of the video. You can see if I go here, I'm not getting this icon on my cursor. So I need to do the duplicating thing. So I'm just going to go on where I want my city layer to be trimmed. Control-Shift-D. Or Command-Shift-D if you're on Mac, and then I can easily just hit backspace on the second city layer. And finally, I'm going to decide where and when I want my skateboard video to end. Let me see, I gotta zoom in to get the times again. Guess I'll go for 16 seconds. Alright. Zoom out. Then I'll just drag the end of this and put it here. So now we have successfully trimmed our clips. We have placed them in the right time and in the right order. But to make things a little bit more organized, you can see right now that it's a bit messy. We can easily just make things organized by moving our layers and stacking them in the right order. So we know that our coffee video is first. So I'm just going to click and drag my coffee video on the top. Then you can see it's really organized and it's going down like stairs. Alright, so now that I have this, I also want things to be a little bit more vibrant, and I'm going to change the color of these clips. So next to the name and next to the arrow that opens up for the transforming, you can see there's this square that is colored. That is actually the label color of your layer. So if I click on that, we get some options for color. I'm going to choose something vibrant so that we can see it. I guess red will do. And I'm going to change the color for all of these layers. So now you can see they stand out a lot better compared to when they were this light blue. So if I play the clip back, it's going to be really slow and laggy because After Effects is creating a preview for me. And we talked about previews and how things will get a little slow when it's being created. And you can see it's creating that as it goes on. And you just have to wait for it to play it back so that we can get smooth playbacks once we're done working with them. So I'm going to do a few things to these clips. I have cut them, but I was thinking I could add like a slow zoom in and out motion just to make it more cinematic. And we can easily do that using the scale transform option to kind of zoom in and out of these clips, and maybe add a fade in and out effect at the start and at the end of my clips, just to make it look better. And then in the second lesson, the one right after this, we're going to learn how to add transitions between these clips, so it's not a simple cut from one video to another. We're just trying to make our clips look as cinematic as possible. So after it's finished rendering, it's almost there. I'm going to start with the scaling. So you see the top bar turned green. And if I play it back, it may look laggy to you guys because it's being recorded, but in real time, it's running smoothly. Okay, so I'm going to add what we said to each of the clips. For the scaling, I thought maybe we can scale on this clip, maybe zoom in slowly on the campfire and the kettle. And then we can maybe zoom out of this intersection and then fade out around here. And for the coffee, I was thinking we could add to the slow motion so the pouring is a lot slower and so that it looks a lot better. So I'm going to go on my coffee layer. We're going to start from the first one and move down in order. Right click on your coffee layer, go to time, and then go to time stretch. So when we're stretching the time, we are making the clip slower. Right now, the stretch factor is 100. This is the regular speed. And if you want to make it longer, you would have to add to the 100. So if I go 150, I am making my clip slower. If I go at maybe 80, I'm making my clip faster. So always look at your original duration and then the new duration. Right now they're the same, but if I add maybe 120, click away, you can see I've added 24 seconds to the original duration. That means I have slowed down my clip. So I'm going to hit OK. Now you can see it became longer than it was. So I'm just going to play it back and see if I'm happy with the speed. First, I'm going to play it here so I can render this part. And then I will move back and see how the slow motion is. It's a bit laggy because we set it to quarter, but I feel like it's too slow. I'm going to make it a little faster. Again, right click, time stretch. Let's go for like 110 seconds. So we've only added 12 seconds to the original clip. Click away. And okay, I'm liking this. It's looking a lot better. I'm gonna come here and just end the clip, the extra part, so we don't ruin the sequence that we've created. So right now it's just a slow pour of the coffee, and then we're going to move on to the camping. Like we said, we're going to zoom in on this video. So go on your camping video, and we're going to hit S on our keyboard for scale. All right, so we're in scale, and you can see the anchor point is in the center. And whatever scaling number we add, it's going to happen around this anchor point unless we change it. So I'm going to see where the coffee pour or tea pour is going to happen. I can see it's a little bit higher, so I'm going to get my anchor point tool and just drag this guy a little higher. Yes, around here. But this also means that I need to work with the positioning of my video because it's going to maybe have some bald spots once we scale in. And I'm going to come here and here. Let me see what we're working with. All right, so if you go on your clips, if I go on this guy, you can see that the clips have been scaled in or zoomed in. So by default, because I dragged it in on a predetermined resolution, sometimes your clips could be zoomed in or out. So right now my coffee video was zoomed in, but if I zoom it out, this is the original clip. So I'm going to see if I want it to be this zoomed out or do I want it to be zoomed in. Okay, I'm going to zoom it in a little, so I'll expand my video, maybe move it around to one side. Let me play it back. Okay. Let me check my camping video. So this could only happen to some of your clips. You can see the camping video is perfectly fit, but the city video is completely zoomed out. So this is the original size of the clip. Gonna bring it back. We check the skateboard. So you can see if you're seeing these guys for your clip, that means that your clip has been zoomed in. Just drag one of the edges and put it into the right place. Alright, so now let's get back to the scaling of the camping video. I'm going to expand this to avoid the bald spot that we talked about. And I'm going to go in the beginning. Turn on my stopwatch to add a keyframe at the original place, the place that I determined, and then around here, or at the end actually, I'm going to zoom in to my video. Just a slight bit. I'm going to play it back and see how it looks. Before that, I'll grab both keyframes and hit F9 on my keyboard, just so everything is running smoothly. So you can see it's slowly zooming in on the clip, but now I know that because half the kettle is not there, I need to move it a bit down. You see that again, it's going to render. Okay, so the kettle was in frame. It's looking good. I'm also going to maybe move it to the right. I'm going to use my arrow keys just to move it a little bit. I want the kettle to be in frame. See if that... I have to hit P on my keyboard to get to position. And I'm going to see if everything is okay. Alright, so that's looking better. I do not need position. So now I have this slow motion of my coffee, and then I have this slow zoom effect on my camping video. Then finally we have, it's not the final clip, but here we have the city clip where we said we're going to zoom out. So I'm going to first go on my camping and hit M to close the transform properties. Come on the city layer and hit S again. But this time we're going to zoom in. So without hitting the stopwatch, I'm going to first expand the clip so we're zoomed in. And then I'm going to hit my stopwatch to create a keyframe from this distance. And then moving forward to the end, I'm going to, let me see the clip. I'm going to zoom out of my video. Just a slight bit. Again, grab both keyframes, hit F9 on your keyboard, play it back. So you can see it's zooming out. And it's looking pretty good. I'm also going to expand this clip. That's the city clip. I'm trying to do that. Okay, so that's the beginning. I need to move it to the left and then expand it here. Then I'll move the keyframes accordingly. Let me play it back again. So now it's looking a lot more smooth because the animation starts from the beginning and there's no pause. And then finally we have our final clip, which is a skateboard. I was thinking we could add like a simple fade out near the end. I'm just going to go on city and hit M on my keyboard to close the properties. So I'm just going to add like a fade out effect. Alright, so I'm going to hit skateboard, and this time we're going to hit T to get opacity. Turn on the stopwatch because we want it to be at 100% here, and then go to 0% opacity at the end of my clip. So I'll just type 0 here. Now we have 2 keyframes. Grab both of them, hit F9, and your clip should fade away slowly. But if you've noticed, it fades into this transparent screen. That is because behind all of these, there's nothing, and that's why we have a transparent background. So we need to create a solid layer. To do that, just hold down Control and hit Y. If you're on Mac, that's Command and Y. And then you're going to get a solid setting. Just leave everything be. They're going to be made according to your composition. So if you remember, ours was 1920 by 1080. I'm going to choose the color black because we want it to be fading to black. If you wanted to fade to white, you would make it white. And you can just click here and choose your color. Hit OK. But it came on top of everything, so we need to bring it down below everything. I'm also going to add that fade effect to the beginning of my coffee clip. So hit T again. But this time we're doing the exact opposite. So before hitting the opacity stopwatch, I'm going to hit M on this. Before hitting the opacity stopwatch, we're going to bring the opacity to 0. Then I'm going to hit the stopwatch, come in a few frames, and then type in 100. So it's the opposite of what we did down here. Grab both keyframes, F9, and now if I can hit M, if I play this back, you can see that it fades in, and I'm just gonna have a smooth effect on all of my videos, and they're going to start with a fade effect, so we don't have the ends and the beginning of my video just being like that. Then you see that my black solid video is long and we're just having this long video of a black screen. So we need to trim our black solid layer to wherever we want the fade to end. So I'm going to play this back, I guess around here. So on this, I'm going to hit Ctrl-Shift-D, then delete the second layer. But now that I don't have my black solid, if I play it back, it goes to my transparent screen. So my video ends right here, right? So 16 seconds is where my video ends, but my timeline is 30 seconds long. So I need to shorten that by grabbing this guy, just bring it to the time indicator. So this shows that my video ends at this point and I do not want the rest. So now if I go from the beginning, hit the playback, it's going to fade in, and I'm actually going to make the fade longer after this. My video is going to end exactly at the point where I assigned it. So here's the skateboard, fades away, it starts from the beginning because it ends right here. So it ends right here. I'm also going to go on my coffee, hit T, and I'm just going to expand everything. So I'll move this guy a bit forward, grab all my layers except for the coffee, just drag them a bit here, expand my black layer, bring my coffee layer, guess we'd have to do it this way, expand my coffee layer so that I would have a longer fade time. Hit the space bar. Now you can see that the fade was longer. And the coffee video is going to be longer than all of them, but it's okay. Also going to check to see if these guys are placed on top of each other. Let me play that back again. Okay, so we have a sudden white screen. I'm gonna go back, let it render, then come back to see the preview. All right, that's better. Zoom out. Hit M on coffee. And now the placement and the cutting, the zooming out and all of that is perfectly done. And also notice that none of my clips have any audio except for city and coffee. And the way that I know that is that there's this volume icon next to them. I'm just going to turn these off because I want my video to not have any sound. If you want a music in the background, you would just double click, import your music, and then just drag it below everything. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to keep it mute like this. All right, so we have a nice little sequence, but we don't really have anything special about this video. By that I mean there's no color correction and there's no editing done to the clips themselves. So if you look at effects and presets, we have a lot of options for spicing up each of the clips. And I'm going to go in the color correction one. We have some auto settings, and if you don't have time or if you have no idea how to color correct, you can just grab one of these auto guys. But the thing is that instead of grabbing any of these guys and putting them on the singular clips, there's an easier way to make a global adjustment. So if you want a singular adjustment done to all of these clips at the same time, you would be creating something known as an adjustment layer. So an adjustment layer is a separate layer that holds all of the effects and the adjustments within itself. And if you place it on top of everything that you have, it's going to apply those adjustments to all of the layers. But if you bring it, let's say, in between camping and coffee, it's only going to apply to everything below it. So let's make an adjustment layer. Go to Layer, New, and then we have Adjustment Layer, or Control-Alt-Y. Hit that, and you can see we have an adjustment layer on top of everything else. But it does not cover anything, so you can see that I'm playing it back. It's still my video. But if I grab any of these guys, let me see what I could add. Let's add a curves adjustment. Just drag it on top of your adjustment layer. Now we have this option in our effects control, adjustment layer 1, which is the same layer here. And again, I don't have anything done except for when I do something over here. So I'm going to go to my coffee layer. Let's add like a faded film look. So I'll drag the bottom point and bring it upwards. You can see that the coffee is now changing, the clip. And if I go forward, all of my clips have this effect on them. And I could just work with this until I'm happy. I'm also going to kind of darken the shadows. But because this clip is a night clip, I need to be careful, or I should make a singular, as in another adjustment layer for this particular shot. But you can see, using an adjustment layer, I've added a nice little curved adjustment. Alright, so I also want to do something with the colors of my clip. So I'm going to go to another effect. Let's go for maybe hue and saturation. Drag this on top. And you can add as much adjustments as you want onto this singular layer. There's no limit. So now you can see up here we had curves. And if I close this, we now have hue and saturation. So now I get to work with the colors of the clips. You can see if I move it left or right, I'm adding a certain hue. If I go to the right, I'm adding a greenish, bluish hue to my clip. If I go the opposite side towards the left, I'm adding a orange, reddish hue. I'm going to keep a very small red hue. And I'm going to go back and see if it's good. Alright. I can change the intensity of whatever hue I chose. If you lower this, well, this is the master saturation, so it's the saturation of your master video, which is currently the coffee layer. If I go here, would be all the other layers. So if I bring it down completely, I will have a black and white sequence. But I'm going to actually add to my saturation. Let's go for like 20 is too much. 16. Let's see how that looks. Okay, I'm going to lower that. Let's go for like half. 8. I'll also change this to -8. So it's less intense. We get to remove from the lightness of the colors, or we could add. That's too much. Guess I will keep it around 6. Let's play it back and see how it looks. It looks pretty good. We're able to change the color of our footage like this, looking pretty good. But like we said, this guy is not looking too good because we have the adjustments made for shots that were done during the day, applied for something that was taken at night or a low light situation. So I would have to bring camping above adjustment layer. So now everything else has the adjustment. except for my camping layer. That does disturb the little organized staircase that we made, but it's okay. So I'm going to duplicate my adjustment layer because I want the curves applied to this. Although we could just make a new one. So I will go on top of camping, layer, new, solid, oops, not solid, adjustment layer. Layer, new adjustment layer. There we are, but now I'm going to cut it. So it's only as long as the video. Control-Shift-D to cut that. And like we said, you can also just add an effect to this clip. So if I add curves to this clip, we're directly affecting the thing, the layer. But I would recommend you do it separately. But because we only have this singular clip, the adjustments on this guy might get on the 2 layers below it. So I'll do this directly. But if you're trying to make a global effect, you should do it like this with an adjustment layer. So now I'm going to do the same thing, except I will be careful about the lighting of my video. So I'll like make it less intense. I will also add a hue and saturation to this camping clip. There we are. But I'll be careful with the coloring. Let's go for like -2. Add to the saturation and the lightness. So add like 2 points. All right. So now let's play it back, see if everything is okay. So now everything has a singular adjustment except for my camping video where we added the same effects but added different input numbers. So now we have a nice little color grading done to my video and it fades out. We also need to cut the adjustment layer. You can see it runs long. You don't have to if you cut your timeline this short, but I just like to keep things organized. So I will come to the end of my clip, Control-Shift-D, and delete the second copy. Alright, so you can see really easily we added these little effects. We placed clips next to each other. We added some transformations by scaling and fading. And we also learned how to make adjustment layers and add effects and presets to our video. So I'm also going to talk about the FX that you see here. So you remember that I added something from the effects and preset panel to these 2 layers. That's why they have the FX. If I turn off the FX, you can see I get my original clip. But if I turn it back on, I'm going to have the effects back, and this applies to anything that has this FX icon next to it. Alright, and that is how you do a simple video editing sequence. In the next lesson, we're going to see how we can add transitions between each of the clips, because right now you can see it's a simple cutting off, and we want to kind of spice things up. So we're going to learn how to make our own transitions using After Effects. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. I will see you guys in the next one.